Spider-Man Brand New Day changed so dramatically because Sony and Marvel were trying to make two different movies. Rewrites and deleted scenes are normal for a production of this size, but Brand New Day faced a more fundamental problem. Its purpose inside the MCU kept changing while the film was being developed. Sony initially wanted an Avengers-level multiverse event even larger than No Way Home, filled with familiar characters and connections to its own Spider-Man universe. Kevin Feige and Marvel preferred a smaller story about Peter learning to live without his old safety net. Both approaches had value, but they could not comfortably occupy the same film. The original schedule made Sony's plan practical. Brand New Day was supposed to arrive after Avengers Doomsday and bridge it to Avengers Secret Wars. Both stories could occur at roughly the same time and end together, explaining why Tom Holland Spider-Man was not fighting Dr. Doom. Peter was occupied with his own crisis, and his ending would send him toward Battleworld. There was still a continuity problem. If Doom collapsed the multiverse at the end of Doomsday, Peter could not simply appear in a normal MCU months later without an explanation. Holland was also filming Brand New Day while Doomsday was in production, making a major role in both difficult. Marvel could fake a brief appearance, but not an entire Spider-Man storyline. Then Doomsday moved back by 6 months, Secret Wars moved as well, and Brand New Day kept its position. Connections written for one order had to work in another. Saving Peter for Secret Wars remained the cleanest answer, so the post-credit scene still pointed there. Much of Sony's original multiverse version no longer had a reason to remain. This was not a problem that one new post-credit scene could solve. Material designed to reveal the consequences of Doomsday now risked spoiling a movie audiences had not seen. Other scenes depended on a damaged multiverse that no longer existed at this point in the schedule. The rewrite had to remove the causes along with their consequences. That version reportedly included Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, with one proposed ending bringing both back. No Way Home had proven the appeal, and another reunion would make Brand New Day feel enormous. Yet Holland's Peter had finally lost his support system and needed to become his own Spider-Man. Calling Andrew and Tobey whenever the story needed weight would make that independence feel temporary. Removing them sacrificed an easy, crowd-pleasing moment, but probably protected Peter's development. Their return also made more sense when Brand New Day followed Doomsday. A collapsing multiverse could naturally bring the three Spider-Men together again. Once that context disappeared, the reunion risked feeling attached to the movie because audiences liked it before, not because Peter's current story required it. Sony's ambition extended beyond the previous Spider-Man. The piece of Tom Hardy's Venom symbiote left behind in No Way Home was expected to connect Holland to Sony's Venom movies, prepare the black suit for Secret Wars, and continue into Spider-Man 5. When Andy Serkis joined Venom: The Last Dance as Knull, he said Sony had discussed significant crossover plans. The symbiote was especially useful because it could connect every stage of the plan. It belonged to Sony's universe, remained inside the MCU, could change Peter before Secret Wars, and could follow him into his next solo film. Ignoring it removed the cleanest thread, joining Sony's ambitions to Marvel's larger multiverse story. The Morbius post-credit scene belonged to the same structure. The MCU's Vulture entered Sony's universe and suggested forming a team against a Spider-Man, although the studio never established which one lived there. It resembled the start of a Sinister Six conflict involving Holland. An abandoned Madam Web ending reportedly placed his Spider-Man against Ezekiel Sims, and concept designs were produced. These plans could have continued through Spider-Man 5, Spider-Man 6, and Holland's next trilogy. The foundation collapsed before the crossover could. Kraven underperformed, Sony's villain universe lost momentum, and another reset followed. Brand New Day was no longer expected to rescue or unite that universe. What began as a huge bridge between franchises was reduced to a few background traces. The X-Men story suffered a similar fate. Sadie Sink's Jean Grey reportedly had a larger subplot that presented her as a possible threat before revealing she was not the real enemy. It would draw Peter into a mutant conspiracy and strengthen the MCU's X-Men Foundation. Jean's powers were also reportedly connected to Hulk losing control or transforming again, joining two plots that might otherwise feel separate. That version gave Jean an active role in the central conflict rather than using her as a simple cameo. Peter would have to decide whether the apparent mutant threat was genuine while dealing with Hulk's transformation. Revealing a different enemy behind both problems could make the conspiracy feel like one story instead of several Marvel references placed beside each other. Leper Queen was one of its most important removed characters. Hathaway and Sarah Snook were considered, but both reportedly passed because the part was too small. In the comics, her mutant daughter's powers cause a fire that kills the child. Grief becomes hatred, turning Leper Queen into an enemy dedicated to hunting mutants. She was expected to work with William Metzger or Damage Control. The final Metzger appears to inherit part of her function without her history. Quick break. I want to reach 10,000 subscribers before Avengers Doomsday is released. If you would like to support me, subscribing, turning on notifications, and liking the video would be more than enough. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the video. The Hulk material shows how deeply these changes affected the action. Early artwork featured a gray Hulk who became larger, more monstrous, and less human after escaping Jean Grey's control. One interpretation connects him to Joe Fixit, the intelligent gray personality from from the comic. Another describes a movie-specific form that was not the talkative Joe Fixit, but a bigger and more savage creature than Green Hulk. Marvel simplified the idea by returning Banner to Savage Hulk. The final Hulk is still larger than his Avengers Age of Ultron form, reflecting how anger increases his strength and size. Spider-Man's promotional anti-gamma equipment suggests their confrontation was designed to be longer and more tactical. The theatrical fight ends quickly, and much of it had already appeared in trailers. The gray version could have changed more than Hulk's color. Joe Fixit would force Peter to outthink someone anticipating his traps, while a more powerful monster would create a longer physical battle. Either presents a harder problem than the brief Savage Hulk encounter. Replacing the concept was understandable, but cutting the fight made the mutation storyline feel smaller than its setup. The change also weakened Bruce's ending. He is hospitalized, his instability is emphasized, his academic career appears finished, and the public treats him as a monster. Peter does not visit or defend him. That feels unfair because Savage Hulk was provoked rather than attacking for pleasure, yet Bruce is blamed as if he chose the destruction. That injustice may prepare Civil War II. Some heroes could defend Banner as a man who helped restore half of all life. Others could demand imprisonment, exile, or death. Mark Ruffalo reportedly discussed a Hulk movie idea with Cretton, and this moral division may resemble his proposal. The Civil War II comics provide the basic template, with heroes divided after a prediction claims Hulk will eventually kill them. A dangerous gray personality would give that conflict a clearer foundation. The movie instead risks building a war around punishing an innocent, manipulated Savage Hulk. Bruce's hospitalization led into another deleted connection. Rosario Dawson filmed Claire Temple as the nurse at the hospital where Punisher brought the injured Spider-Man. Claire and Frank Castle never met in the Netflix shows or Daredevil Born Again, but their shared allies mean they would know each other by reputation. The scene also contained references to Daredevil Born Again. Cutting Claire may have kept the hospital focused on the brotherly connection between Peter and Punisher, instead of turning the moment into another collection of MCU references. Even so, her appearance would have made the street-level side of the film feel more connected. Other removed scenes were simply enormous. Spider-Man's comic cover montage originally contained a larger villain battle. Ramrod's actor said several major actors filmed deleted material, and Cretton was heartbroken to cut a sequence recreating a major cover. It may have been a Sinister Six style battle using lesser enemies, the Enforcers, and montage villains. Tombstone was likely central, while a Rhino head seen on set suggests Rhino appeared too. More than 50 comic covers were considered, but fewer than half reached theaters. Cretton wants to preserve the team up for another Spider-Man movie, revealing its scale. This was not a disposable gag. It was valuable enough to save, instead of burying it inside a montage. Peter's transformation lost its most memorable sequence. He watched spider documentaries while trying to understand his mutations, leading into a nightmare where he became a live-action man-spider and grew additional arms. Holland called it intense and exciting, but it was considered too horrific for a PG-13 movie. The removal cost more than a scary visual. Becoming Man-Spider would show Peter's fear of losing his humanity and give his changing powers a psychological cost. Brand New Day ultimately pulled away from that horror. A related scene placed Spider-Man in a children's hospital or school, helping a nurse teach vaccinations while kids joked about spider puberty. It connected Peter's mutation to comedy but did little to advance the plot, making it an understandable cut. Spider-Man and Punisher had a longer conversation about Staten Island, the shared origin of their friendship, and their version of Black Widow and Hawkeye's Budapest. Peter apparently found Frank confronting criminals and saved his life. The incident was created for the MCU, but keeping more would have made their trust feel earned. Smaller details vanished too. After Jonah Jameson was removed as a character, Daily Bugle items on Peter's board showed him blaming Spider-Man for No Way Home. People in Queens mocked the new suit, while the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree linked back to that film's ending. Some details flashed too quickly to read, and others disappeared. Even Peter's closest relationships changed. A version written roughly 2 years earlier excluded Ned and MJ, but later rewrites restored them and made both characters part of Peter's emotional recovery. The final battle happened in the editing room. Test screenings pushed Sony toward a lighter and faster movie. The studio considered reducing Peter's depression, adult responsibilities, emotional scenes with Ned and MJ, and the quiet Lego material. The theatrical version lasts about 2 hours and 25 minutes, while Sony considered bringing it closer to 2 hours. Holland and Cretton fought to preserve those scenes because they believed the shorter version was worse. Peter's exhaustion gives this chapter an adult identity, but the solution created an imbalance. Emotional development survived, while the villain team-up, Man-Spider Nightmare, extended Hulk fight, and ambitious action were sacrificed. The movie matured without always delivering the visual consequences it promised. The strongest possible cut probably needed both sides. Peter's depression matters more after the audience watches him fail, struggle, and fear his own transformation. Action without emotion would be empty spectacle, but emotion without enough escalation can make the film feel as if it is describing a more dangerous story than the one actually shown. The alternate ending may have offered the biggest consequence of all. One reported direction required the world to believe believe Spider-Man had died, neatly explaining his absence from Avengers Doomsday. Another possibility was that Peter left his universe without physically dying. The symbiote fragment could then revive, restore, or transform him before Secret Wars and create the black suit Spider-Man. This theory also connects Peter to the idea of an anchor being whose death or disappearance weakens the barriers between realities. The released post-credit scene confirms that Peter has left Earth, but it does not reveal whether he died, survived, entered another universe, or was transported somewhere else. Those surviving clues support several interpretations, but they do not confirm which abandoned ending Marvel once preferred. What is clear is that the earlier structure pointed toward three different futures. Jean Grey and Leper Queen prepared the MCU's X-Men story and introduced an organized mutant threat. Grey-Hulk and the public reaction to Bruce Banner prepared a possible Civil War II. The Venom fragment, Peter's disappearance, and the alternate ending prepared Black Suit Spider-Man, Secret Wars, and Spider-Man 5. The theatrical film retains weaker traces of the first two paths while largely postponing the symbiote story. That amount of finished or partially finished material makes an expanded release unusually believable. Sony already returned No Way Home to theaters as the more fun stuff version. Brand New Day has far more marketable possibilities, including Man-Spider, a major villain battle, a longer Hulk fight, Claire Temple, additional comic cover recreations, and perhaps more multiverse material. An expanded edition released between Doomsday and Secret Wars could turn deleted scenes into an event of its own. Spider-Man Brand New Day was not merely shortened. Its identity changed from a multiverse bridge involving Sony's universe, the X-Men, Hulk, and Secret Wars, into a smaller story about an isolated Peter Parker rebuilding himself. The final approach may be emotionally stronger, but the abandoned version was undeniably more connected, more ambitious, and in several places much stranger. That tension between the better character story and the bigger spectacle makes the missing version so fascinating. Which deleted storyline would you most want to see restored? Subscribe, turn on notifications, like the video, and leave your hype score for a possible extended version of Spider-Man Brand New Day in the comments.